Grace and peace, you guys. I am in the heart of New York City. I think, y'all don't give me the line. I can't remember if I'm at Times Square, 42nd Street, something like that. I'm at the Hard Rock, getting ready for Fox News tomorrow. But I wanted to come and connect because I have not had time to react to the State of the Union address by the great President Donald Trump. Let me just explain something to you, you guys. Say what you want about Donald John Quavius Trump. One thing you cannot say is that he doesn't have the ability. That man plays 4D chess. And I say that because his approval rating amongst those prior to the speech was at like a 54%. And this man jumped 10 percentage points simply by doing what he does best, which is highlight his achievements, but then at the same time exposing not just the hypocrisy of the left, but how much they actually hate America. Like, he didn't need to get them to say we hate America and all that it stands for, and that we hate you, the American people. What he did was he allowed them to tell on themselves and to demonstrate that with their actions. Now, I don't know if you guys remember. I want to say it was during his first presidential run, 2016, when he was like, you know, the progressive left. He was like, and the elites, he was like, they don't really hate me. He was like, they really hate you. They're trying to get to you, and I'm just in the way. And I think we saw that during the State of the Union address. So what we're going to do now is I am going to share my screen, and I am going to, wait a minute, first let me just go and get this stuff out of the way. Y'all need to see all that, all my text messages from my people. I want you guys to watch. Say what you want about John Fetterman. I don't agree with many of his politics, but I'm going to tell you why. These are my first thoughts, my first initial thoughts to the State of the Union address. I want to engage with an interview that John Fetterman did. John Fetterman he's dangerous, and let me explain why. I'm saying it in a good way. It's really a play on words. John is dangerous because he is all that the left should be if they ever want to get back in power again. But the hatred in their heart and the animosity and the thirst for power that they have, like the animosity that they have against the American people and their thirst for power, blinds them from seeing that John is giving them the cheat code as to how to win elections again. And let's be clear, I'm actually glad that they are in the majority in terms of their actions, and that John Fetterman and the way he chooses to approach politics and leadership as a senator, I'm glad that he's the minority, because if there were more John Fettermans, the Democrats would win. They're so stupid and evil and shameful that they don't realize that he is giving them the cheat code on how to win again. He is taking a ploy, or should I say, taking cues from the Bill Clinton playbook. So let's just listen to this.
34, and the reports that nearly half of the Democrats in Congress skipped the speech last night, boycotting the State of the Union address, and there are the names on the wall. Instead, holding several competing anti-Trump events, including one that was dubbed State of the Swamp, with Robert De Niro and Mark Ruffalo and others, and several people wearing what appeared to be frog costumes.
I defy Trump and his authoritarian project by standing in joyful, radical, peaceful resistance with the Portland Frog Brigade.
The state of our union is not strong. It is hanging by a thread.
Donald Trump, the Republicans, have made this country sicker, poorer, and less secure. Sicker, poorer, and less secure.
Donald Trump doesn't owe us a 2-hour rambling speech. He owes the American people their money back.
Notice how they can never engage with any of the accomplishments and the good things that Trump has done. Instead, their needle is stuck on Trump derangement. First of all, is anybody going to talk about how lame this event was with their little frog mascots? I'm just like, y'all are so sad and so sick and so hateful. You know that they hate the American people because of the way they're trying to push the illegal immigration issue. They don't even want to have a common sense approach to immigration. It's because it ain't about you, the American. It's about the illegal immigrant. That is what I walked away, and the Trump card, the 4D chess move that he played, it was masterful. Y'all remember Donald Trump was able to get them to expose themselves when he said, listen, if you agree with this, all you got to do is stand up. If you agree that you as a legislator should be here and your first priority is to represent and put Americans first above that of the illegal immigrant, just stand up. I'm paraphrasing. It's not exactly what he said. Nobody stood up. I think John Fetterman stood up. Nobody else stood up. And I'm like, you brain dead leftists and Democrats and independents and progressives that saw these Democrats spit in your face, take your money, give it to illegals, and then make a national display. Basically, they turned their behinds around and told you to kiss them. And you gonna vote for them anyway? You are some kind of retarded. Like at this point, there's nothing else I can say other than you have a brain deficiency. You absolutely are retarded. And you should never be in power ever again. Never. But let it finish.
Well, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman is one Democrat who was in the chamber for the speech last night, and he joins us this morning. And thank you for your time, Senator. Always good to see you, and thank you for sharing your insights with us. You had about half your colleagues who chose not to go. That was their choice. You chose otherwise. What do you think of the decision they made?
Well, I mean, it's just disappointing, honestly. I mean, I think that's sad that I think half of my colleagues didn't show up. I mean, that's not a judgment, but for me, it's like, so for me, that's, I think show up. You don't have to clap for everything. You don't have to agree with anything. I think we're in a different place right now where it's now people not even going to show up or doing other kinds of alternative things. So for me, that's, I think so.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think the State of the Union address has changed for good now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, now it's the constant kinds of yelling and screaming and holding up signs and for doing all these things. I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat as a president. Just don't do that. Don't do that. Respect the office, regardless who's in that. And now for me, it's like now when half the people in my party haven't showed up, and then some of them have chosen to just yell and say and scream during all of it. I just don't think that's what we want. And I don't believe, as a Democrat, I think like dancing frogs really moves the ball for us as a party either.
On that first point here's some of the moments. You had Ilhan Omar out of Minnesota, Rashida Tlaib out of Michigan, and just watch here for our audience.
That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed.
Listen, I don't know what they do in these countries, Somalia and whatever country Rashida Tlaib is from. It is the height of disrespect for you to come over here and take advantage of the opportunity that we offered you as a refugee fleeing your war-torn country, and then to come over here and sit in our State of the Union address with your hijab on, talking about you've killed Americans when you've been over here pirating and pillaging you and your freak, your immigrant foreign friends from Somalia up there in Minnesota. You need to be lucky we let you breathe the oxygen on this side of the hemisphere. It is the height of disrespect. The thing about it is, we the American people, this is our fault. All of our, you don't want to be called xenophobic. No, every culture is not created equal. And these foreigners come over here and then they bring their culture with them, and then they hijacked American politics and then sit in our sacred halls of Congress and yell at the daggone president. They should have snatched her little pencil neck skinny behind, ripped her right up out that seat, and threw her out. This is so shameful. She should be ashamed of herself, but she has no shame. That's a wicked woman right there. And I think John Fetterman was right. He's like, don't do that. Acting like she could not do this as a Muslim woman in her own country. They be done slapped her across the desert if she did that. But notice how she'll wear. I don't believe that this woman is religiously Muslim. I believe she wears this as a costume, and she wears it as a sign of protest against all that the West represents. That's what I believe. Because if she and this one over here, Rashida Tlaib, if they were truly practicing Muslims, they would represent themselves with feminine dignity. They wouldn't be feminists. They wouldn't be rebellious. They wouldn't have all this orangutan energy right here. She's a liar. She's a thief. And I believe that the Muslim externals that she wears, I believe that it's a uniform. It's a costume, but she doesn't really believe in the tenets. But it's a subversive way to say F you, F your way of life, F this country, and we're coming over. This here, our juke joint now. That's what she represents. And I think it's shameful to have a woman representing a congressional district in this nation that acts this way. Now, hear me clearly. I have the same kind of smoke for her that I do for a Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine don't know how to act either. All these female imbeciles who can't manage their misery get on my last nerve. But John Fetterman is right. Why is it that the only person with some sense in the U.S. Senate got a brain injury? Like, didn't he have a stroke? That tells you if he can exhibit some self-control, if he can exhibit some adult social maturity, he wore a suit. Like, he just did the basics. That tells you that these darn Democrats, they are so far gone. When I say they're done, they are absolutely done. They are all that's wrong with America. And if they had any sense, they would be taking clues from John Fetterman and behaving more like he does, because at the end of the day, it's about working for the American people. They got this dude out here looking like a saint, and he's just like, we're just doing regular stuff. Let me let it play again.
That exchange obviously went to immigration and enforcement and DHS funding. I saw an email thread last night where you shook the president's hand. I believe it was on the way in, and it suggested that you were the only Democrat who did. Is that true?
I do believe that's true. And now for me, I'm not going to yell or do that. Again, regardless who the president is, I think that's been lost now here for a nation to do that. So for me, yes, I shook his hand, of course. Mm-hmm. He walked in, and I'm always going to do that, for sure.
So the New York Times wrote up the following moment as a ploy. That was the way they described it. And this was probably the moment that people will remember. When asked to stand for Americans or illegal immigrants, how the president phrased it last evening, this is how that went.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up.
So, Senator, to you, do you consider that a ploy as you look back on that 12 hours later? And if I may, did you sit or did you stand for that moment?
Well, for me, I never checked to see what the rest of people in my party would stand up and clap for. I clapped with a lot of those things that it seemed like others. Like I stood up and I clapped to recognize the family that lost their daughter, the Ukrainian girl that was stabbed to death, in North Carolina. And I stood up and I clapped that political prisoner from Venezuela, how you can't celebrate those kinds of things. And now I also celebrated all the veterans that were in the audience as well, too. And even more the political things like Erica Kirk. I stood up and I clapped for her as well, too. Now, here, can't we just be more kind to a widow? I mean, we just shouldn't be that long ago that a widow, with young children has her husband murdered, how we can't just acknowledge that as well, too. Wow. Why people would attack her, whether the left or the right either. So I'm always going to stand up and clap for things that I agreed with like striking the Iranian, sites now for me. I never worry about who's standing up or clapping. If I see it, I'm going to. If I don't agree with it or whatever, I'm certainly not going to yell and scream and disrupt the whole thing.
Okay, so here's my takeaway from this. Now, John didn't answer the question. He asked him if he had stood up for the question or the ultimatum, basically, that Donald Trump presented, like your first duty, not your only duty, but your first duty is to put Americans first above illegal immigrants. And he didn't answer the question on whether or not he stood up. But here's what I did notice. He was like, listen, one thing we gonna say, I don't think John Fetterman is fake. John is like, listen, if it's something I agree with, like, I'm not gonna be looking around casing a joint to see who stood up. Like, I'm not a brain dead follower, no pun intended. I'm not saying he's brain dead, but he did have okay, that was foul. Anyway, the point I'm making is that he's like, if it's something I agree with, I'm going to stand. I stood for Irina Zarutska, for Erica Kirk. He's like, these are just American things that are not hard. Now, I wish he would have stood up and acknowledged that his first duty as a U.S. Senator is to put the needs of America first. But he didn't answer the question as to whether the way Donald Trump phrased the question or framed the question, whether it was a ploy or not. It could be viewed as a ploy, but who cares? The question is, how are you going to answer it? Either you are America first or you are America last. No one said, he's not implying you have to be America only. He is saying, do you believe it is your first duty as an elected official to represent the needs of America, to put Americans first? If you're struggling and hemming and hawing, say, well, it's the framing of the question. It was like kind of real. Like I heard some black female congresswoman from Oregon, instead of answering the question, she tried to, her default response was that it was racism. It's not racism to put your own country first. How retarded do you need to be? I am so sick of these Democrats. Y'all have no idea. Listen, I got to calm down, right? I got to calm down because I got to be on my best behavior tomorrow because I'm going to be in front of company, okay? I'm not going to be here with you guys, the Unshakable crew. I got to go into the out, right? In front of company over on Fox News. And so I've got to be a little bit more poised and a little bit more refined and a little bit more professional, but I'm still be me. Here's the point, though. Donald Trump's State of the Union address masterfully exposed how Democrats don't work for you. They want you to elect them and vote for them. but they don't work for you. They work for themselves and their self-interest. And right now, their boo thing of choice is any illegal immigrant that they can stuff and add to the rolls of the census so that they can funnel and steal more money and enrich themselves and create another dependent class of electoral serfs and use all kinds of socialistic means and measures to get them hooked and addicted to the free. And what that does is that kills the American spirit, our healthy doctrine of work, our freedom and our liberty, and just our American way of life. Bringing all these different people here, trying to artificially create a whole new social experiment that we've never seen before. And they just exposed their hand. They're not interested in sensible immigration reform. They want those borders open, and they have no desire to send these people back where they came from. And they want to take your money, the money that you work hard for, to provide for yourself and to live the American dream. They are effectively snatching that American dream right from up under you and your children and your children's children and giving it to people who have no part or lot in the inheritance. That should make you angry, especially if you're a foundational Black American. You should be pissed. The blood of your ancestors has soiled this ground, participating in the independence to make this nation great. And you're going to let somebody come and steal it from you? Heck to the no. I think not. But I don't want this video to be too long. It's already been 21 minutes long. Let me know what you think. What were your thoughts on the State of the Union address? It was long. He got up there like a Baptist preacher and he let it rip. But I loved the fact that he highlighted and celebrated Americans. And he was trying to help us to remember and understand that we are so much more better when we celebrate the good and try to root out the bad, the things that have corrupted us, the political violence, the lawfare, and just get back to some American principles of heroism and courage and valor. And you can't deny that Donald Trump absolutely loves this country and he wants what's best for the American people. So let me know what you think or thought about the State of the Union address. What were some highlights? What was the high point for you that sealed the deal, that was like, you know what, I ain't got to like him, but I darn sure need to respect him, and I don't even need him to like me to know that he is fighting to protect this country. And let me know your thoughts on the tariff situation. Y'all, if we could get that tariff going to abolish income tax, honey, listen, Linda, listen, let me tell you, okay? Let me tell you something. If I don't have to pay income tax no more, and the money that we are bringing in just from tariffs alone, that's how you run an economy. He's a businessman. He knows what he's doing. But anyway, let me know. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Don't forget, tomorrow, 11 a.m. on Fox News. Me, Brandon Tatum, CJ Pearson, live in Fox News in New York City with the Faulkner Focus with Harris Faulkner. I love you guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. I covered your prayers. I need it because I got the jitters. I do. I do have the jitters. I'm a little nervous, but to God be the glory. I am built for this, and he's given me everything that I need. He's equipped me to do this and to represent conservatives well. So as we close out Black History Month, you guys stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.